I'm telling anyone who needs to hear this, the world is not better without you. It never will be. There is someone that you're forgetting right now in your moment of sadness and anger and frustration. And this lost feeling that you're having is preventing you from thinking of that person. But there is someone that will be sad when you're gone.
Dad?
Who is my daddy and what does he do?
Dad?
Daddy, chill.
Dad?
This is the dad voice.
Today's going to be a heavy one, Phil.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about grief.
One of the top 5 least funny concepts.
Yeah. But I don't step around it too much, okay? Try to be a little bit funny for us because we're going to need it.
I literally did a stand-up routine at my grandfather's funeral for his eulogy 2 years ago.
See, you're a pro at this.
Dude, I didn't get a lot of laughs. Then my mom went after me, and she got laughs. But she wasn't even trying. And she was, like, crying and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was sad, but she was still getting laughs. I was like, all right. Sorry. I literally let my grandpa down.
Tough crowd.
Because he was always obsessed with me being a comedian and stuff. And that is the part of it. I'm getting into it, I guess.
Yeah, well, hey, but before we get too deep into it, I do want to give a content warning.
Yeah.
We're talking about death. We're talking about dealing with death. We will end up talking about suicide and self-harm. If any of these things are uncomfortable for you, this is the one time I will ever say it's okay to turn it off. But I think that this is an important thing. Watch the first 5 minutes so we get the view.
Or you can mute it and put your YouTube video on 2x speed and just let us get the full view.
That's fine.
Go do something.
Sure, do what Phil said. Or you can just mute the tab and leave it playing in the background. Whatever you want to do. The point, in all seriousness, this is going to be a heavy episode because I experienced loss this week on multiple fronts, and it really resonated with me. We actually moved our entire content schedule down to make room for this episode this week while it's all fresh in my mind, because ADHD people deal with loss in a very different and unique way, and sometimes it makes you feel guilty, and it makes you feel bad about the way you deal with it, and I want to take
makes you feel like you're not doing it right.
Right. It really does. When a neurotypical person grieves, they have like a very linear structure, right? This is how you go through it. You follow these steps of grief, and then you get to the other side. And for us, autistic, ADHD, neurodivergent people, it's a bit different, right? Like it's a non-linear mess. It's a scrambled up thing in your head. You can be sad and then the next minute be fine and cracking jokes, and then 3 hours later your brain calms down enough for you to think about it again, and then it ruptures inside you, and then you're sobbing, and people look at you like you're fucking crazy.
That's just me throughout a regular 9-to-5 workday.
You're just struggling.
You're the fucking superstar there making everyone laugh, and then by 5:30 you're just crying.
You're sobbing in your truck like, I can't do this anymore, man. So I know you were talking about your grandfather. My grandfather I also lost, so we have that in common. I want you to go ahead and finish your thought before we get too far away from it, because I know I have a habit of commandeering the conversation, and we both have a habit of derailing. So I'll let you get your thoughts out, because, it sounds like your grandfather was very important to you, and probably, whether directly or indirectly, led to you doing this.
Yeah, in a way, because he always encouraged me to do comedy, and I was thinking about this the other day. He would have loved seeing our podcast pop up on one of his 12 Facebook accounts because he got hacked all the time. Yeah, dude.
He probably would have enjoyed some of our cyber bits.
He would have, yeah. He would have been like, oh, that's what keeps happening.
You mean this man is not really a prince?
So. It's funny, like, when before he passed away, I was like, I just knew years in advance. I was like, I know this is going to be the next big this is gonna be the big one for me.
Yeah.
Aside from like my parents dying or something, and I'd been preparing for it for years. I think that's just part of being anxious too.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, I was prepared, but it's funny. I cried when I was rocking my daughter when she was a baby while my grandfather it was his last couple days, because I pictured him rocking my mom back in the day, and it hit this weird nerve. And that was when I lost it mostly.
That is something incredibly important that so many people do not understand. Object permanence has such a standing effect on how we grieve.
Yeah.
And how we cope with pain, how we cope with, and it can be beneficial at times because it does help us compartmentalize, right? So when it's out of sight, you don't have to think about it as much. But unfortunately, the closer you are to whoever has died, the harder it is to shake the image of them, because you can then conjure up that image in your head. And when your brain goes quiet for a little bit, now you're seeing that person or thinking about a memory you've had with that person, and you can see them again and you go, oh,
time to crush up some more pills.
they're gone. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gotta cope. Gotta get through this. And some people will look at you and go like, how are you not falling apart? Like, this is an incredibly profound loss. Like, you lost someone who was most important to you. How are you dealing with it the way you're dealing with it? And it's just, it's a perk that comes with the gig of you not having to right now, because you can break down over time instead of having to deal with it all at once like they have to.
You don't just boo-hoo, it all hits you. Different parts of you fall apart in the background,
right,
as it's happening, and you don't notice. Like your guardrails that you set up for addiction and stuff, you allow yourself to slip into bad habits because you're like, well, I'm fucking dealing with something, man.
And that's kind of like that sneaky shadow of grief that hits people with ADHD. That part sneaks up on you, and it's like, that is the where we have the silver lining of being able to not have to face it all at once as like this extreme pulsating angry,
this big dark wad of pulsing just meat grief,
right? Grief
just hit
grief
you right
meat
in the middle of the chest and just buries you for days.
Instead, we get to break it down, but then that brings with it that shadow of emotional dysregulation. And when you're deregulated like that emotionally, it comes out in different ways, like addiction, like you said, like kind of submitting more to your vices, snapping at people and you don't really know why, or you get those brief moments of like that dad rage, that,
or you develop weird hyperfixations to distract yourself too.
Yes. And that's part of it, is just kind of getting around that grief blob and just kind of like getting into, okay, why am I actually acting like this? Well, we know why. But it's never apparent. It's especially because it's still playing in the background, right?
Yeah.
Like that noise, that feeling of pain, that grief, it's not gone.
And also even just the nagging thought of, oh God, I'm going to have to think about this actively at some point.
I will get in anxiety spirals about having to deal with the grief.
You're like, man, I'm running out of shit to distract myself with.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, so one of the things that happened this week that made me think of this episode in particular is one of our kittens, Bog Walker, passed away. And it was really fucking sad and awful. And
it's worse with kids.
It is. And it's the worst, even worse so that we got them the cats for Christmas. And Bog Walker was this sweet little tuxedo cat. And I know I'll probably put a picture or like a sad slideshow of her at the end. But she was the sweetest cat, and she didn't deserve to hurt or to suffer the way she did. But one thing that is very common in cats, especially feral cats, which we rescued both of them from a feral colony. Well, we didn't rescue them. The people we adopted them from had rescued them from a feral colony. But she had feline herpes, and 0 to 6 months in that range is where they're most vulnerable. And unfortunately, with feline herpes comes a series of other potential infections, and it led to pneumonia, and we lost her. I do have my own thoughts about what happened in the process. We took her to 3 different vets. 2 of them were like, yeah, it's just the feline herpes. It took me 5 minutes of Googling to find out that, pneumonia is a very common thing with kittens under 6 months, which we told them how old she was. I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm dealing with anger right now. I'm dealing with sadness because that cat was the sweetest cat. She was one of the best pets I've ever had in my life.
The vet's like, you would have been mad at me if you watched me Google it, so I had to do something that wasn't on Google. I had to tell him something else.
Well, and all they ended up telling me was, yeah, this is just feline herpes. And I was like, yeah, well, I told you that. The whole reason is because this is beyond what we know how to take care of. And we tried everything. They gave her some antibiotics because with feline herpes comes like eye infections and stuff. And that was to stave that stuff off. But then they gave us some high calorie food, and we were like syringe feeding her. And she was fighting us every step of the way. And eventually the pneumonia just got her. And I know it was pneumonia because shortly after she passed away, we finally got a call back from our primary vet because they had been busy that day. And the people at the vet urgent care that we took her to were like, if she hasn't eaten by this day, you need to call. And so we did, and we got a call back just about an hour too late, and she had passed away.
Were you like, yeah, thanks, apparently it was.
I mean,
y'all nailed it.
At first I was, but the lady on the phone was like, yeah, her first sentiment was, why didn't they check for pneumonia? And I was like, that's a good question. Never going back there again. And I'm not going to name the place. I'm not going to do that. I left a whole long review, and it turns out that a lot of people that are in similar situations to the one we were in, which is where they were a little tight on money and couldn't afford a whole plethora of add-ons, which is something that this vet is known to do, is try to add on a bunch of tests and panels that you don't need. And
dude, you didn't pay for the pneumonia check.
That's the thing is,
you only paid for the service where we tell you whether it's a cat or not.
Yeah,
it was a cat.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, good. All right. Well, we knew that. So yeah, they didn't even mention pneumonia, by the way, which until I had looked it up online, where it was like, yeah, this is a very common thing. And it matched everything. It came on quickly, the breathing problems, the way her body was reacting, her weakness. It was all like textbook pneumonia symptoms. And we were just like, you guys couldn't decipher that. Like, I was able to find it in 5 minutes. And that's basically what our
vet could probably hear it. Hear Bogwalker breathing from another room and be able to tell is pneumonia. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's rattly.
And I'm lost as to what they were thinking. But again, our primary vet was like, yeah, I wish we would have been able to get with you sooner, because we probably could have done something to kind of maybe stave off the infection or at least prolong her life until we could get that medication. I was like, yeah, well, unfortunately, you didn't get back to me in time. And the lady was crying, and she was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, listen, if those other vets would have done their job, we wouldn't be here, right? Like, we wouldn't even have to have this conversation.
She's like, no, but I have to keep working here, and I just realized I have to keep giving this bad news all the time because our vets suck.
Well, again, it wasn't her vet that did it. It was another vet, and they're just her primary. Yeah. And so she was like a little upset, and I told her, I was like, that vet was recommended to us by one of your people. And I was like, and I don't think you guys expected them to be that, like, to do it that way, but they did. So
didn't expect that vet to kill a child's Christmas present, but whatever.
And technically they didn't. It was the pneumonia that killed her, but it was awful because like I had moved one of our home cameras up there. We were monitoring her, and it was a period where I had gone downstairs. I had to get on a meeting, and I didn't want to be in the room disrupting her. I wanted her to sleep and rest. I went downstairs, and my wife went to check on her while I was on a meeting.
Oh, dang.
And she came down, and my wife has never dealt with the death of an animal like this, and she said she's very stiff and I don't know what's going on. Can you come check on her? And I immediately hung up on my meeting. I said, listen, I gotta go. I might be gone for the rest of the day. I'll clue you in a minute. And I went and checked, and she was gone. And it hit so incredibly hard. And I know I'm also the same guy who we just put out a clip a couple of weeks ago that was like, your pets are not the same thing as your kids. But that does not make the pain of losing them any lighter. And this is the second pet that we've lost within a year. And my initial thought was just my heart sank into my stomach. I felt just an overwhelming tide of grief immediately, and pain and just hurt, and it just kind of like came out in this weird choked sob where couldn't even cry, but I was just like doubled over, just kind of beside myself. And there was like panic and pain, and then immediately I compartmentalized it because I was like, I have to pay attention to my wife, who's right here beside me, who is a huge animal lover, cat lover, loved that kitten with all of her heart. And I want to be very clear, we took out a loan to get the treatment at the pet urgent care. We got the money we needed to get that done. Okay. We would go into debt 10 times over if it would have saved her. Either way, I was beside my wife, and I'm trying to, like, I had to pull it all in. I had to reel it in and get it together for her. So I went and I told her, I was like, you don't need to be here just staring at her. Go get me a towel, because next we have to tell our kid about it.
Yeah.
And the 3-year-old doesn't get it, which is devastating to me in several different ways, because he and that cat were actually the closest. Like, everywhere she was, he was. And the only benefit of him being a toddler with very little object permanence.
The object permanence will disappear. It'll fade away quicker. That's what I was thinking.
He won't acknowledge, like, he won't understand that she's gone. And he's not old enough to remember, so he won't even remember her presence and then her lack thereof. So that was a faint, like, little ribbon of relief to tie around this big, ugly mess of sadness. But we couldn't afford a cremation service. The last time we had a pet cremated, it was like $600.
And you can't even guarantee that they give you your own pet's ashes
Right.
back. Like, they're mixed in with all the other ones.
Yeah, and that shit just makes me, But we have, I don't know if you've ever even been into my backyard, but in my backyard, we have like this walled off area. It's a nice little like corner, and there's a nice shady tree with some bushes, and there's just this opening right in front of the tree. And so what I did was I went and dug a grave for her right there in front of that tree. And after we had time to tell my oldest what had happened and that she wasn't with us anymore, we went out and we were able to bury her. And it was just me and him, and I buried because, my wife wanted to stay in with our youngest because she was worried that if he did see us put her in a hole.
Yeah, he'd be like, what the fuck? Get her out.
Yeah, why are you doing this?
You're going to kill her.
Well, yeah, please stop. So we buried her, and, this weekend we're going to go get some nice flowers to plant on top of her. And it's as soon as she was in the ground, I was able to compose myself and pull it together. I have still been fighting it all the last few days since it happened. It has been really deep in my chest. It's been incredibly sad for me. it's been painful and it's been coming out in bursts, because the one thing that is hitting me every time is the sight of her when we found her.
Yeah.
And realizing that she was gone, and I was just holding her and like just trying to make sure that she was actually gone. And it was devastating, because that little cat was the sweetest thing, and she didn't deserve to suffer. She didn't deserve to hurt, but she did, and she passed away. And it almost felt like she waited for us to be out of the room and then crawled under, because
Like they do.
Yeah, and she was in our oldest son's room, isolated from the rest of the cats because she was sick, and we didn't want them messing with her. And she crawled under the bed and passed away. And like my first thought was, well, she was alone. And I know cats aren't like humans.
That's how they prefer it.
Honestly, yeah, that's typically why they do that. Your cats will tend to kind of go away on their own, and
They're probably embarrassed. They're like, God, I can't fulfill my evolutionary duty. I'm not going to get caught lacking like this.
So, that's one thing that we've been going through.
I was going to say, yeah, you said my cat's getting old now. Now it's hitting me, but she's not sweet. She's kind of mean. So she does probably deserve some kind of bad stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm going to be devastated.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a family pet. We lost I've talked about this before on the podcast, but in the time that we've been doing this, we lost one of our older cats, Salem, and she was 10 years old, and she passed away because she had cancer in her liver, and her liver had swollen so big that it was starving her because it was pushed against her stomach. And so we had to make the decision to euthanize her because she was suffering. And that was also incredibly difficult. But at least I feel like at least with that one, she had been able to live a pretty fulfilling life, and we were able to make that decision for her without it being a surprise to us, or us being told by a vet that she had a chance. The vet was very honest. That's why we still go to our primary, because our primary took care of her, and they were like, this is what's going on. This is the reality of it. We can charge you $3,000 and prolong her life for a little bit. She's still going to have a miserable existence. But
and you will too, because you'll be having to take extreme care for her.
Right.
And then cats aren't particularly receptive to human touch and stuff, so it's just...
Or you can relieve her of the suffering. She won't suffer anymore. Unfortunately, it will be incredibly painful for you and your family, and that's what we decided to do. And it is what it is. Like, pets pass away, people pass away, and that part is the reality of life. Like, you're never going to get away from that.
That's what we spend all of our lives trying to distract ourselves from, is that thought, or kicking that can down the road, because if it's not happening right now, then it's not real. But you have to face it. And that a thought I had coming into this is it's kind of this, I don't know if it's a common, not thought experiment, but when kids are little, you get them pets that have very short lifespans first, like goldfish, something that, a life form that we would consider less significant, and you get them used to death. And it's just funny that getting kids pets is almost a way of training them in it and getting them ready. And I mean, it's a healthy way to do it.
It is. It's a good introduction. Unfortunately, the more personal the pet gets, the more painful it is. And cats are cats are weirdos, but our cats have always been very cuddly.
They're weirdos, but you get even closer to them than dogs if it's your personal cat, because it takes a lot of quirks in understanding them and unlocking that little love part of them. Yeah. It's like a game.
That is where it differs from humans a bit. Humans are that times like 100, right? And with cats and dogs, yes, you do have that. Cats are a little more quirky. You're absolutely spot on that. But when it comes to a person, I think that's why cats and dogs are a little bit closer to people, because you do have to work those kinks out, and you have to work those quirks out, and you have to figure out these creatures and understand them on an emotional and mental level. And with people, it's that times 1,000 even.
Yeah, and those emotions and the way they make it, it's like the common saying, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. It's true. Because, like I said, with my grandpa always encouraging my comedy and stuff, I still hear him if I'm like, I don't feel like recording this video today or whatever because I'm just not feeling it. I can, like, literally hear him being like, come on now.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it. Like, you're funny. That's what you meant to do. But then it's like half the time you're like, well, fuck, am I just schizophrenic now? Like, is this like the echo of his sentiments towards me, or is it him in another dimension, or am I schizophrenic?
I'm a little bit of column A, B, C,
and everything in between, baby.
And I've spoken about my grandfather before. I think this is the first time you've had the chance to really speak about yours, but I also had a very close relationship with my grandfather, and the way that he passed, I think, was exceptionally painful because my grandfather was brilliant. He spent 40 years in the military, 2 different branches.
For which country?
The United States.
Okay, yeah, not Germany.
No.
Sorry.
You keep trying to make him a Nazi. The man is gone, okay?
He said he was brilliant. I immediately went to Operation Paperclip.
No. He was a good...
Congrats on the Artemis II launch.
He was from Peoria, Illinois. Okay. Artemis 2. There's a buzzword for you. So anyways, he's from Peoria, Illinois. He was an American tried and true. If there was ever a person in my life that exemplified what a real, good, hardworking, down-to-earth American looked like, it was that man.
Do we both also have one random grandparent from the Midwest?
Probably.
I think we do. My grandma's from Wisconsin or...
Yeah,
Minnesota.
He was from Peoria, Illinois.
That's funny.
And my grandmother was from Germany during the war times, but not on that side.
She was an army medic.
No.
She was Germany's Rosie the Riveter. She was like Dasha.
She was that lady that Ed Gein was obsessed with.
Oh, yeah. The BDSM lady.
Yeah, that was not my grandmother, by the way. But yeah.
She was Ava Brown.
Jesus Christ. No. So anyways, my grandfather was a brilliant man, and he got Parkinson's, which eventually led to dementia and Alzheimer's. And I think the most painful thing in the world is watching someone with such a beautiful, broad mind, full of knowledge and information, that never once stopped looking at the world with a sense of wonder, and just watching him degrade and lose all of it. And one of the last conversations I had with him, he was so defeated, but it was a moment of relief, I think, for both of us, because I sat at my mom's kitchen table, and this was one of the few moments in my life where I made peace and took time to just put all the bullshit with my mom aside and go be with him, because he was staying with her for a little bit. And I sat down with him and I was like, how bad is it? And he was like, you're the first person that's not been afraid to talk about it. And he was like, it's miserable. I feel myself slipping. I can't control anything. I can't hold a knife. I can't cut. I can't cook. And I was like, well, the good news is you can get someone to do all that shit.
I was going to say, that's a get out of jail free card. That's the ultimate sympathy card.
And he laughed.
Being able to be like, I literally can't fucking do it, babe. You do it for me or let me die.
Right. And he laughed. And that was like the last honest, genuine conversation we had, where after that we just kind of got into all the funny things. And
dementia is just the highest level of weaponized incompetence.
That's all it is. But it's
your mental retirement. Sorry, that's fucked up.
I mean, it's technically true.
If I have to, I'll start listing off family members that died of dementia so I can be woke or whatever. It's okay.
No, it was devastating to watch that take him because it was the worst possible way someone like that could go.
Cruelly ironic way to go. I almost wonder if, like, this might just be completely anecdotal, but it seems like smart people are generally the ones that get dementia and pass away.
Well, thank God.
What if
I'll
it's
never get it?
Yeah. Thank God. I'm going to remember this fucking hell that we live in to my very
Forever.
last fucking gasping breath.
You say that, but our president has dementia and he's a fucking idiot. So
Yeah, he's just had too much Diet Coke. He's got phenylketonuria in his fucking brain. That's just separate. That's a medically induced dementia.
Yeah, he did that one to himself.
This dude's brain is made of small metals.
But not to we had a good moment of laughter, thank God, but not to darken it.
Thank God, time to get sad again.
Yeah. Not to darken it, but I often think about what would happen if that happened to me. Like if I started to lose myself, and I think I would want to end it.
I would to a point.
That kind of thought brings me to another loss that happened. Okay, this one doesn't directly impact me, but I knew him. And actually, I've seen two people online. The other person I didn't know, so I'm not really going to talk on them. But the person I did know to some degree, again, I'm not saying we were best friends. I'm not even saying I was tight with the dude. But Bo Looters from Harm's Way passed away. Nothing has been said exactly about his way of passing. But it was on April 2nd that they announced it. And I thought when I first read it, I was like, wow, this is a little bit of a dark April Fool's Day joke, but he was the guitarist of the band Harm's Way, and he was the co-host of the Hard Lore podcast, which is him and Colin Young from Twitching Tongues and God's Hate. They just go into hardcore and talk about
they just chop it up
stories and stuff like that, and they have killer guests on. And Hard Lore, I follow them on Instagram, and that's how I found out. And listen, again, I want to clarify, I was not super tight with this guy. I'm not just chasing clout. I'm not trying to use this guy's name.
I am. We were best friends.
I remember one time, I think Neglected ripped a gig with Harm's Way, and Bo, right after our set, was like, that was fucking sick. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. And then we ended up having an hour-long conversation, up until his set it was time to go. And Harm's Way was going to play. And it was such a great experience. And then I met him a couple other times, and he was like, oh, yeah, man, hey, how you been? Genuinely just a great guy. And that kind of reminds me of all the friends I've lost to suicide. And again, I know I've already said the word suicide, and I know I gave a content warning at the top of the episode, but I'm going to get into the impacts of suicide again. So if that is something that will set you off, I strongly suggest you skip through this part. Double speed, mute it, get to the end. We don't really have much time left.
When you see our faces pop up with the either grill or fire, then you've made it.
This isn't a dad blast, so this is a grill.
Just check the reflection in your window or whatever and look at the TV and make sure it's still going.
But that it just reminded me of how I processed the suicides that I've dealt with, and that comes with a lot more anger, a lot more resentment because of that way that we dissociate from the reality of the situation by compartmentalizing it. And the other thing is I barely go to funerals because funerals are like a fucking sensory hell for me. I'm already in a stiff suit that I fucking hate. Everybody's there. I can smell everybody's over abuse of cologne and perfume.
Well, at least one person there is quiet.
Everybody wants to make small talk, and I fucking hate it. You know what I mean? And it's like a full shutdown for me. And then I'm also trying to hold it together because this is the one situation where I can't avoid the subject, because that's why we're fucking here, is to say our farewells. And funerals are miserable, and so I don't go to them. And people are like, how could you not go to a funeral? And I didn't go to my grandmother's funeral. I loved my grandmother. I still love my grandmother. I think about her all the time. And it carries with it a sense of guilt for not dealing with things the way normal people do. To be fair, my mom swung on my aunt at my grandmother's funeral. I'm glad I missed it.
Hell yeah,
Hindsight.
world star.
But at the same time, there is a deep resentment, sense of self-resentment that I hold for missing that and for missing friends' funerals. But the one thing that has always been like a guaranteed I'm not going to make it is if my friend took their own life. And a lot of people are dealing with the passing of someone who was monumental to hardcore. And he had impacts on people in several different ways. His music probably helped someone get through a hard time. And now they're seeing that he couldn't, in their head, they think, oh, he couldn't get himself through the hard times. And that resentment is something that I know neurodivergent people tend to harbor a lot harder than neurotypical people, because neurotypical people, like I said, they have that linear way of thinking about things.
Yeah,
they get through it, and
I think that's why I'm actually one of those people. I weirdly love going to funerals. I don't love people dying, but I like the structure.
I just fucking funeral crash all the time.
I do. I love the structure of it and how funerals are generally structured the same way every time, and it always leads to the ultimate end. And it's satisfying in a way to me. I don't know. It's weird.
I think that you get because I feel like there's two schools of people there, and we're showing both, because that finality that you're talking about, it does close the door, right? Like, I've been to funerals, and I can tell you that I deal with the memories of people whose funerals I went to a lot easier than I deal with the memories of people whose funerals I did not attend. And that's because of that sense of closing the door.
Yeah.
And we lack that object permanence. So when we feel like we really finally got there to the end and it's over, now our brain doesn't feel like, oh, sometimes we need to bring this back up. Because, again, that shit's playing in the back of your head all the time. You're constantly thinking about it, whether you realize it or not. And then when all of the other chaos that's pushing it back and back and back all of a sudden settles, then it comes back to the forefront. And you're like, fuck, and I have to deal with this now. And that's such a painful way of exposing itself. But I think that if there was any advice to give on this, maybe what you're talking about is the best advice. Try to fight through your urge to avoid it and let yourself have that sense of final goodbye, and let that farewell really just be how you emotionally and mentally close that door. Because I can tell you that I don't deal with it. I'm the worst at coping. Especially, don't even get me started on all the shit that comes after death, like settling estates, lawyers. Jesus Christ, I
already hate that kind of shit.
Yeah, stop asking me to sign shit. I'm still trying to get to the end of this, right? Either way, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, like, this was definitely not a help piece as much as it was a you're not alone piece. And the one thing I will say that I do want to just briefly touch on is social media has bastardized the value of death so much. And the second person I was talking about that took their own life wrote a farewell message on Facebook, and now that Facebook post is getting shared over and over again. And not but a few years ago, a young lady made a final video or a final post and posted a picture of herself crying with her cat and saying, even my cat doesn't want to be with me. And I got fucking just obliterated in some comments for going, stop sharing this girl's final words like this. Like, this isn't something that you should just post to make a point or whatever. This person's gone. This is their fucking...
Dude, that was that person's last gasp
That was their,
into this like realm.
That was their last cry for help, and then they went and ended themselves. And they're never coming back. And now your only purpose with sharing that is to show that their pain, like, you can't tell me...
Yeah, it's like being like, hey, I go through that too.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if you go through that too. Right now, you're still here. And
yeah, I was going to say, no, if you went through that, you wouldn't be here.
And here's the thing. I because that didn't come out the way I wanted it to, so I want to... I'll play this right into my dad formation. This is my dad formation because we're about at the end of our time here anyways. There is never a moment where you're truly alone, even if your mind tries to trick you. Look, I have been there, okay? I have tried to take my life more times than I'd like to admit, okay? And I've tried damn hard, and for some reason I'm still here. And if I could explain it to you, I would, but I have no idea how. But you are not alone, and the world is an ugly fucking place, but you are valued. If nowhere else, you're valued here. Because I would hate to know that anybody that has ever watched this, and this is putting aside political beliefs, this is putting aside personal values. If you feel that sadness and that lost feeling of hopelessness, please reach out. You can comment, you can send us an anonymous email. I don't give a shit. If you need help, even if you just need someone to get on the phone with you, I don't mind being that person. And if our audience grows the way we would love for it to grow, that would be significantly harder.
I would finally be able to live some of my purpose in life too, because I mean, I went to school for psychology.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely wanted to help people. But
and that's the other thing is, like, we have resources here, but even if we get to the point where more people need us than we can adequately tend to, I would make sure that we're providing you with resources of people who can take care of you, because the world...
Personally vetted and vibe checked.
That's
people.
right. And I'm telling anyone who needs to hear this, the world is not better without you. It never will be. There is someone that you're forgetting right now in your moment of sadness and anger and frustration. And this lost feeling that you're having is preventing you from thinking of that person. But there is someone that will be sad when you're gone. And we will all miss you. And the world will never be better for people without these people that have ended themselves. And there are resources, and I will put all the phone numbers at the end of this video and in our description. If you think that you aren't meant to be here anymore, please reach out to someone first. Don't. And as someone who has been there, do it out of fucking spite. Do it just to see tomorrow. Just put it off a little bit longer. Put it off to spite the people that said that you didn't deserve to be alive, or the people that have pissed you off and angered you. Realize that a real bastard of a person is still alive, and you are better than them. If that's how you got to justify it in your head, do that. But don't leave. Please don't leave.
Yeah, stick around and see what happens. That's how I live sometimes. I'm like, man, sometimes I just want to live a long time just to see what kind of cool technological shit they come up with.
I gotta tell you, man, like, right when COVID hit, like, I lost music. I lost a lot of shit.
Your sense of taste and smell.
Yeah, some of that too. But my son was so young, and I was in a very selfish place. And there was a period where I was thinking to myself, like, he'll never remember me. If I died right now, it wouldn't matter to him.
His object permanence would fade.
Yeah, like
logic.
Yeah. And one of the driving thoughts was, yeah, but he's probably going to be such a cool fucking kid.
Yeah.
So just keep going for him.
Yeah, that's how I think with my daughter too. I'm like, I gotta see her across the finish line of being on SNL.
Yeah.
That's been my predetermined dream for her for a while now. If anything, just see out the predetermined dreams you have in other people.
Yeah. Vicariously live through your kids.
Stick around with us to see how some people end up. Maybe famous people that we like making fun of. Man, you never know what's going to happen on each episode of life every day.
That's right.
And I'll just tag on with you at the very end for my affirmation and say, yeah, actually, in fact, without you in it, the world is mid as fuck. It doesn't slap. It's not cooking.
It's not 6-7ing.
It's bland. It's just straight ass without you.
Yeah. And I genuinely mean that. Look, I cannot reiterate this point enough. There are people who have made it to the other side of that valley that you're staring down, and they're better for it. And you surviving this will make you stronger, but you losing that fight, just understand that.
Guess what? You're going to lose the fight eventually one day anyway. So, I mean,
Yeah,
if you
honestly,
want to so bad, it's coming.
Yeah, and honestly, just keep pushing till that day comes. But I get it. Okay, the world is shit. Nobody can afford anything. We're fucking stuck in this hell dimension.
We're all just animals
down.
with extra electricity in our brains.
It's
and
fucked
brain
up.
space. It's just, we're all just bumping into each other and everything, figuring it out. But you know what? Sometimes it's fun to watch people figure it out.
It is.
Sometimes figuring it out is fun yourself. And
And
just stick around and see what happens.
I will say this, just to listen. If you've got resources, especially like if you have a specific resource that you know is reliable, put it in the comments. Or I know that sounds like engagement farming. You don't have to put it in the comments. I genuinely mean this. If it really means that much to you to not comment it because you think that that's just us baiting for engagement, I don't care. Send us an email though, and I will at thedadvoicepod@gmail.com, and I will gladly make sure that we put a poster up with all the resources that we can gather for suicide awareness and protection. And understand that one of the lowest points I've ever been at is right after losing someone. And that pain that I felt was the only reminder of what other people would feel if I was gone. And it's the only thing that stopped me from doing it. And so just remember, mom would be sad. Like, I hate to phrase it like that, but like so
the
many
dude
people,
that stands outside of your favorite gas station will be wondering where you are.
Dude, yeah, 100%. But listen, I'm not going to do the whole spiel for very long. Just like and subscribe if you like what we're talking about. We deal with things from the ADHD and autistic perspective, neurodivergent to sum it all up. This is not the right episode for me to do a whole circus pitch on this shit. We love you and we'd love to have you here as part of our community. But, even if not, I hope you stop by and caught the most important thing.
And we will see you for the next episode.
We will see you for the next episode.
And you will see us.
Even if it's just to fucking run the hate recorder. You better show up for the next episode. And if you're one of these people that is dealing with the loss that I've seen, because there's a lot of it and there's going to be more, unfortunately, reach out if you need someone, to us, to someone you're close to, because grief is not something that you have to go through alone, no matter what your brain tries to tell you. So please just be good, do good, reach out to someone who might need it, and we'll see you guys next time, all right?